If you were worried about a movie called Solarbabies being lame, well, don't worry. There's plenty of skating. Welcome, y'all. Taylor James Johnson here, and I'm loving the 80s because only the 80s could bring us this movie. A movie called Solarbabies. And yeah, because of the title, I totally didn't want to watch it. And then because of the title, I totally had to watch it. And actually, it should have been called, like, Solar Teens, which is still just as lame, but don't let this lame title scare you away. It's actually really cool. But yeah, this is basically, entry-level post-apocalyptic cinema. Mad Max for kids, with a little bit of George Orwell thrown in there, and a whole lot of Did I Mention Skating? Let's revisit it. Solarbabies, 1986.
There's a movie out there that's so completely insane that if I were to describe it to you, you'd swear I made it up. Don't buy it? Okay, well, here goes nothing. In a post-apocalyptic future, a group of roller skating teens try to save an alien ball from the repressive regime that controls their planet. A Mel Brooks film. And no, it's not a comedy.
I can't believe I'm sitting here talking to Paul.
The movie, of course, is Solarbabies. And okay, I'm exaggerating when I call it a Mel Brooks film since he didn't direct it. But he did produce it and, in fact, personally financed the thing to the extent that it came very close to bankrupting him.
What is it that you do here? Merchandising.
This is the glorious tale of Solarbabies.
They must be sliving us some kind of new medication. We're all hallucinating.
Flashback to the year 1987. I was 6 years old and being babysat by a cute girl who lived next door that I had a crush on. Not that at that age, I even really knew what a crush was. My babysitter always enjoyed looking after me, but not because I was an especially cool kid, but because my parents had cable, and we were one of the few houses on the street to subscribe to First Choice. Now, if you watch a lot of videos on this channel, you've heard me speak of First Choice before. But basically, it was the Canadian version of HBO. That night, my babysitter was really happy to be babysitting me because her all-time favorite movie was on. And you guessed it, that movie was Solarbabies. Now, I imagine her love of the movie had less to do with the fact that it was a post-apocalyptic roller skating movie and more to do with the fact that it starred Jason Patric, who was quite the teen idol at the time.
I can't believe you're saying that.
My babysitter threw it on, and I was fucking riveted. The apocalypse, teens, roller skating. Hey, there was even some cool violence at the end. It was just risque enough that I felt like I was being a little bit bad by watching it, although truly my parents would have been more amused by the fact that these roller skating teens were entertaining me than to anything else.
Odd name for a skateball team. Don't you think? Solarbabies.
So what exactly is Solarbabies? To answer that question, we have to go back to the early 1980s. In 1982, North America got The Road Warrior, and its success had an outsized impact on low-budget action movies of the era. Director George Miller made a mint off of it, as well as its predecessor, Mad Max. And the movies made both him and Mel Gibson rising stars. But the thing about it was, since it was set in a post-apocalyptic future, you could do these movies cheap. But none of them ever even came close to The Road Warrior because, well, they didn't have George Miller or Mel Gibson.
You want to get out of here?
But that's how we got movies like Exterminators of the Year 3000, Warriors of the Wasteland, Metal Storm, The Destruction of Jared Sin, 1990 The Bronx Warriors, and many, many more. And a lot of them came from Italy. At the same time, Mel Brooks was taking a bit of a break from directing and was having a lot of success as an independent producer, making movies far removed from the type that he directed himself. Basically, they weren't comedies. He brought David Lynch into the mainstream with The Elephant Man and was the one that hired David Cronenberg to direct The Fly. At the time, teen flicks were hot, so when Brooks was presented with the script for Solarbabies, he probably figured it couldn't miss. It's like Mad Max meets The Breakfast Club, and it could be done cheap in Spain.
They've conditioned us here to be so afraid. There has got to be a place to go. We were not born here.
Alas, things didn't work out too well for Mel. Brooks himself told the whole story on one of the greatest episodes of How This Get Made ever. But as he put it, it was supposed to be a $5 million movie, and he fronted the budget himself. No problem. he hired a director named Alan Johnson, who was a really good friend of his and had done a great job directing To Be or Not to Be with Brooks and his wife Anne Bancroft a few years earlier. The cast that they assembled was actually great. It was Jason Patric, who hadn't really done anything at the time, but definitely had a lot of potential. Lucas Haas, who was coming off of Witness. Charles Durning, who had actually just got an Oscar nomination for To Be or Not to Be, plus Jamie Gertz, and Richard Jordan.
Without me, you're nothing. You don't exist.
They decided to shoot in Spain, of course, because it was cheap. That's where all the Italian exploitation movies shot. And he sent them on their way, thinking that he'd get a nice little sci-fi action flick out of it that he could sell to one of the studios, and heck, probably do really well on video. Alas, as Brooks put it, the old adage that the rain in Spain falls mainly in the plains turned out not to be true. The location hit with tons and tons of rain. Before he knew it, his $5 million investment was all gone and they had barely shot anything. But rather than bring people home, he was actually kind of impressed with the footage. Some of it made no sense, but some of the action stuff was pretty cool. So he kept putting more and more money into it, to the point that the movie ended up costing a disastrous $22 million.
It's a thundercloud. It's a real thundercloud.
By the time he realized how close to bankruptcy he was getting, well, he had already spent too much money and there was no going back. It was so bad that Mel Brooks, who, let's not forget, had directed Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, and The Producers, all of which were major hits, and he was a very rich man, ended up taking out a second mortgage on his house and selling a couple of his cars to pay for it. He actually was on the verge of personal bankruptcy and was in debt. But he was able to sell the film to MGM, which was run by his old friend Alan Ladd Jr., for $14 million. Now, the movie cost $22 million, so it left him in the hole for quite a bit of money, and that was personally in the hole. By his estimates, he ended up owing about $9 million by the time they were done shooting this movie. Ouch. That said, $9 million for Mel Brooks isn't like $9 million for anyone else, and getting $14 million from the studio was enough for him to pay back the other people that had invested in the movies and limit his liability a little bit. But still, oof, that was a big hole to be in.
I like the sweat.
Get out, you creature of filth.
As for the movie itself, well, I loved it as a kid, but I gotta wonder, what was Mel thinking by putting enough money to fund a Return of the Jedi into the thing, given how cheap it all looks? The premise of the film is that in the future, Earth's water is almost gone and is hoarded by the repressive, fascist Echo Protectorate. Teenagers live in orphanages where they are trained to become soldiers by participating in war games that are basically a hybrid of lacrosse and roller skating. The Solarbabies are the league's underdogs, and they have a young deaf boy, Daniel, played by Lucas Haas, that they protect. One day, Daniel finds a mysterious orb he calls Bodai, which not only heals his hearing, but can also make water. Yet the orb is taken, and Daniel goes after it, with the Solarbabies, led by Jason Patric's, Jason, going to the rescue.
I'm very worried about him. Please, let's just go.
Sounds like if we go, we're not coming back.
Exactly right, so it's gotta be something that we all agree on or we just don't go.
Now, it's a dumb movie, but there's tons of roller skating action, plus Adrian Pastar plays an older teen that has a cool hawk. You know, when I was a kid, I thought his hair was awesome, and I thought the hawk was really badass.
No.
It all comes to a surprisingly violent end when the Solarbabies take on the fascist leader of the Echo Protectorate, who's played by the great Richard Jordan, who sadly passed away a couple years after this movie was done, and they save the day. Actually, they save the planet.
It's more than just a thunderstorm. Water's free again.
Man, I got chills just thinking of it right now. If you dig the 80s, and especially 80s cheese, this is the movie for you. It's 90 minutes, incredibly dumb, but also so heartfelt that the silliness is, well, extra delicious. The fact that Mel Brooks had to watch $22 million of his own money go down the drain while making it is kind of sad, but here's the thing, some good actually came out of it. You see, the movie absolutely died in theaters, only grossing $1.5 million. But Brooks felt like he owed MGM a hit, so he turned around and made Spaceballs, which of course is one of his classics.
How many assholes we got on this ship anyhow?
However, it more or less ended his career as a producer, as outside of The Fly 2, he just didn't want to risk huge sums of his own money again, and who could blame him? But here's the kicker. According to Brooks, the movie, against all odds, eventually turned a profit, and recently he's been getting small residuals for it, and it became an unlikely hit on video and cable. It's still a popular streaming title among aficionados, and Brooks himself, while saying that it's not a particularly good movie, does seem to have some affection for it. It also seemed to be good for a few careers, with both Jason Patric and Jamie Gertz shooting The Lost Boys immediately afterward, while Adrian Pasdar made Near Dark the same year. While no one will say Solarbabies is a good movie, how can you hate a movie where the film's sole black character beatboxes with an animated orb and has long roller skating action sequences? I certainly don't think it's possible, so if you're looking for a tight piece of 80s fromage, well, this is for you.
He hasn't left us.
He'll always be with us.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. Joe Blow was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.